It's 8 o'clock on the 23rd of October. This is Sunday Supplement, our weekly look at the people and politics of Wales and beyond. But first, I'm joined by Laura Schwartz, a political commentator, former advisor to President Bill Clinton. How seriously do you take Donald Trump's threat that he might not accept the result? I mean, you know, is he actually just playing to his gallery here?
Vaughn, it is so great to be on with you. I always enjoy it. You've got a great team behind the scenes, and I enjoy the opportunity to speak with your listeners. And you just said it. It's like, is he just talking to rally his own base? And I think that answer is yes. His base is strong. They are vocal. They love hearing what he says. But the problem is, when it comes to politics, he's not expanding his reach. He's not getting those independents or other traditional Republicans that are actually voicing their vote for Hillary Clinton. And that's what he needs to do in the next 2 weeks and somewhat to make this election closer and have a chance to win.
It's too late for that, isn't it?
I think it is. You know what? After this last debate, when he said that at the end of the debate, I turned to a friend of mine and I said, you know what? Hillary just dropped the mic and Trump just dropped in the polls. And he has. Trump is now down by over 6 points. The media, both traditional and non-traditional, headlines such as Donald Trump the loser, the rich vote Republican, maybe not this election. I mean, this really has done a great deal of damage to him. And just today here in America, his staff billed a big speech in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the site of Abraham Lincoln's great debate during the Civil War, an incredible speech. And they said he's going to lay out his closing argument. And basically, a few minutes into it, he talked about suing his accusers of sexual assault, which are now up to 11. So it's just too bad for American politics to have this kind of discourse.
It could be dangerous as well, couldn't it? I mean, I've seen reports, for instance, that he's been asking people to go to the polls in areas where there are large ethnic minority populations to monitor the polls. That sounds like it could be asking people to intimidate, to put people off, even to commit violence.
Yeah, it even sounds a little bit racist. I have to say, Vaughn, you hit it on the head. It's, asking people to go monitor the elections. I mean, this is the United States of America. There have been 31 irregularities in the last billion, that's billion with a B as in boy, that's a lot, of votes in the last few years. 31 discrepancies within 1 billion votes cast. And so, you know what? Trump just needs to say, listen, no matter what, there's a peaceful transition of power. That's how it's done in America. We don't rig our voting system. We have paper ballots. In fact, there are more secretaries of state which watch over the polling progress in the entire United States that are Republican of his own party than of the opposition party. So,
and yet, Trump doesn't come out of nowhere, does he? And these accusations, this talk of electoral irregularities, of dead people voting, of multiple voting, and so on, have been made for years by the Republican side and by politicians who are regarded as far more respectable, if I can put it that way, than Mr. Trump. He is hitching his wagon to a horse that's been around for a long time.
But that horse has never gotten far out of the mud. And I think that's where he is right now. And the problem is it's dragging down his party. We heard last week the leader of the Republican Party got on a phone call with his fellow Republicans and said, listen, you can detach yourself from Donald Trump with no retribution from the Republican Party. And we're seeing that in many states that were once battlegrounds where Hillary Clinton has the lead on the top of the ticket, Vaughn, we're seeing the down ballot races for our United States Congress in the Senate and in the House, in some cases still going to the Republican. And so it's showing this race is going to be very interesting, I think, at the end to see how many tickets were divided, whereas they maybe voted for a Democrat for the presidency, but a Republican for the House or Congress in the United States Capitol, because the Republican Party is saying, listen, we don't want to go down with you. And we're hearing this more and more.
Now, bring John Roper in here. How significant could this election be, John? Laura was saying there that there could be a lot of ballot splitting, but it could go the other way, couldn't it? It could become what they call a wave election for the Democrats.
Well, indeed, it could be. I mean, I think that where we are at the moment, the Democrats certainly feel that they could take back the Senate. I don't think that they will take the House of Representatives well, but they could make inroads there. And this is important because should Hillary Clinton indeed win, as most of the polls say she's going to, it's going to be the relationship with Congress that will be important in terms of whether she's able to get any of her agenda through. And as we've seen over the last 8 years with Barack Obama, if there's an intransigent Republican opposition in Congress, not much is going to get done, and we'll be into the gridlock situation all over again.
And would they remain intransigent, do you think, John, or would they take... for instance, I saw some polling that even Texas could be in play. You know, if they suffered that sort of defeat, wouldn't some Republicans at least say, well, actually, maybe this obstructionism is what's led us to where we are?
That's a very good point. And I mean, after the last election, when Romney was defeated, the Republicans did take a good look at themselves and they analysed some of the issues that were preventing them winning the White House. And what it came back to was the need to reinvent themselves and broaden the base of their party and bring in, or at least have outreach to a broader section of the American public. What we've seen with Trump is somebody who's prepared to go the other way.
And in a sense, John, what they've done there is paint themselves into a corner, isn't it? Because if at the moment you say anything moderate in the Republican Party, you face primary opposition from someone who's to the right of you, and you may well lose. But then when you come to the general election, or presidential election at least, you just can't win.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think that the Republican Party is at a crossroads, and we may well see it going through one of its periodic reinventions. I mean, after all, this is the party of Abraham Lincoln, and it needs to really look at itself and try and assess its relevance in a United States that is changing. It cannot really rely on winning if it merely panders to this right-wing evangelical base.
So Laura, is there, do you think, going to be a rethink in the Republican Party, or does this sort of structural business of the gerrymandering and the primaries mean that they can't actually move out of this corner they've painted themselves into?
No, I think that there could be hope for the Republican Party after this because, in a way, as much as Trump has divided it on issues and in mudslinging, he's united the members of Congress that have either come out against him, refused to come out for him in the first place, or have now changed and pulled back their endorsements. So it's kind of an odd couple, Donald Trump and the Republicans. I think if he loses, as the polls suggest, and let's say he accepts that he loses on November 8th, I think the Republicans will have a big sit down and they'll realize that they have to do a lot more inroads with African Americans, Latinos, inner cities, areas that they actually did make some inroads with George W. Bush, but it's been completely wiped away during Donald Trump.
And John, the thing that strikes me here is, you know, here we are a fortnight away from the election. It looks like we could get a third Democratic term in the White House, something that doesn't happen very often in American politics. It looks like we could have the first woman president of the United States, and yet what we're all talking about is Donald Trump.
Well, that's very true, and this has been the case throughout this election. I mean, Donald Trump kind of sucks the air out of debate. It's all about him. He's been very effective, and his background as a reality TV star, he's been very effective in, I think, using the media for free publicity. And really, this has resulted in an election campaign that has been far more about personalities and about character and temperament than about policies.
John, Laura, pleasure to speak to you both. Thank you both very much indeed, particularly Laura, getting up at an unearthly hour